Hello and welcome back to Euro Football Daily, where today we're looking ahead to the January transfer window with 10 players in desperate need of replacement. Let us know your thoughts on our picks in the comments below. 10. Saul. A Spanish champion last season, Chelsea's deadline day loan capture of Saul Niguez was heralded as a brilliant move, an experienced, versatile player arriving to bolster a thin midfield and capable of filling in for Jorginho with his passing or Conte with his work rate. But after nearly half the season, Saul has just 94 league minutes to his name, fewer than Ross Barkley, and could even return to Atletico in January. It's rough to judge him on such limited game time, but the 27-year-old has shocked with his poor form. In his 4 appearances for the Blues in the Prem, he's completed just 1 progressive pass, 0 dribbles and been dispossessed 4 times, with the result that Tuchel clearly doesn't trust him, only giving him Champions League minutes against Malmo and Juventus once the games were won, and handing him a sole start against Zenit, only to see his team's defensive structure fall apart in a messy 3-3 draw. One of just 5 times Chelsea have conceded more than 1 goal in a game under the German. Given the standards set at Stamford Bridge, we doubt the club will be taking up their option to buy, and a January upgrade could prove the edge in the tightest title race in years. 9. Jan Sommer. Even by its usual standards, the Bundesliga is all over the place this season. 8 of the 18 teams changed manager over the summer, with another 3 sacking since. And at the time of writing, RB Leipzig, Eintracht Frankfurt, Stuttgart and Borussia Mönchengladbach have all slumped outside the European spots, while unfancied Freiburg, Union Berlin and Mainz have soared. Gladbach in particular are confusing. Now led by Adi Hütter, the Foals have the second best expected goal difference in the league, with StatsBomb suggesting they should have scored 27 and conceded 23. But instead those numbers are almost reversed, with 19 netted and 28 going past Jan Sommer. Only 9 teams across Europe have a bigger goalkeeping underperformance, and Sommer is saving just 63% of the shots he faces, the worst rate of his career, as well as catching fewer high balls, perhaps explaining why Gladbach have allowed a set-piece goal every other game. While the attackers are also failing to do their jobs, Sommer's form has pushed the team from a Champions League spot into mid-table. Now nearly 33, it's time for new blood. 8. Andros Townsend. Andros Townsend's inclusion here might seem harsh, but hear us out. The former Palace man has contributed 5 league goals at the time of writing, 3rd best at Everton, and works hard out of possession, with more defensive actions than every other Toffees forward. But there's reason to believe Everton can do better. Those 5 goal involvements have come in 16 league games, matching Townsend's middling XG of 0.3 per 90, and he's currently in a run of 9 games without a contribution, hardly good enough with Calvert-Lewin missing. In those matches he's taken just 5 shots, and while he's been reasonably creative with close to 2 chances made per 90, his defensive output is starting to slide, down to 1.6 tackles and interceptions a game, while he ranks among the bottom half of wide men for dribbles and bottom 3% for touches in the penalty area, giving Richarlison no support. As a squad player this would be fine, but for an ambitious team like Everton it's hard to imagine that there isn't a hard-working winger out there who can improve on 30-year-old Townsend. But with FFP potentially limiting them to loan signings in January, they'll need to get creative, or simply use Anthony Gordon. 7. Adam Lallana. With an average age of 23.4 last season, Brighton are one of the youngest sides in the top flight, and so you can understand why Graham Potter likes Adam Lallana. The former England international brings his league and Champions League winning experience to a side still growing, but now 33 and deployed in a demanding midfield role, you'd expect him to be a dressing room influence and occasional super sub at this point, not a weekly starter. Lallana is certainly not useless. Always a smooth technician, he can still dribble out of pressure and pick a pass, but he gets the ball into the final third less often than ever before, and he no longer creates, with just 0.4 key passes a match, down from a previous low of 1.2. On the other hand, defensive actions are up this year to 3.5 a game, but when his pressures, forward carries and forward passes received are all sinking, it looks overall like he's losing agility and athleticism. Most worryingly, Brighton are worse when he plays, creating less XG than they concede with Lallana on the field. And given they spent £21 million on Enoch Mwepu in the summer, it's time to move on. 6. Mats Hummels. With over 400 games for Borussia Dortmund, Mats Hummels will enter the club's top 3 appearance makers this season, but there's evidence that the German's powers are starting to wane. Turning 33 this December, Hummels is into his 12th campaign at the club, but hasn't meshed with coach Marco Rosa's system yet, Dortmund allowing 1.4 expected goals a game this term to date. 8th in the Bundesliga and up from 1.2 per game last season. Of course, that isn't all down to Hummels, but his form isn't helping. This year he's making more tackles and interceptions than ever, 5.4 per 90, but that means he's exposed a lot. A huge problem given that he's currently winning only 36% of the challenge he attempts, down from over 50% 3 years ago. And his pressing is less successful too, suggesting he's not as quick as he thinks he is. Even his distribution has taken a hit, with progressive passes dropping by a third, and his overall pass accuracy falling, despite the fact that he's actually trying fewer long balls than before. It's hardly disastrous, but in the frantic pace of the German game, slowness is soon ruthlessly exposed. The longer Dortmund rely on Hummels, the more danger they're in. 5. Sandro. Frankly, half of Juventus' squad could do with an upgrade. The betting odds currently rate 4 sides more likely to win Serie A this season. And in a club full of underperformers, including coach Max Allegri, particularly disappointing has been Sandro, who was nominated for the FIFPro World 11 just 2 years ago. Somehow the 30-year-old looks much slower than 32-year-old Juan Cuadrado on the right, and his numbers back up the eye test. Sandro wins a lower percentage of his tackles than the Colombian and rarely dribbles anymore, while he loses possession more often than any other Juve defender, making it all the stranger that reserve left-back Luca Pellegrini has barely played. The 22-year-old wins possession 4 times a game to Sandro's 3, completes 88% of his challenges, and is a better runner with the ball, as well as passing into the final third more, only trailing the veteran on aerial wins and chances created, which could both improve with more minutes. Pellegrini is certainly not perfect, but he cost Juventus £20 million, and at least he'll be better in 2 years, not worse. With Champions League football already looking unlikely next season, Juve should use the campaign to blood their youth now, before Bonucci and Chiellini are gone for good. 4. Kasper Schmeichel. Links to the Man United job for Brendan Rodgers have helped conceal a worrying truth. The Northern Irishman's Leicester side are in freefall. Unlucky to miss the Champions League last year, the Foxes have gone from taking 1.7 points per game to under 1.4, and the defence has been largely responsible, letting in 27 goals so far to slump to 8th, with only Watford, Newcastle, Everton and Norwich allowing more. You can't blame all of that on the keeper, and Leicester have conceded so many shots on target that Kasper Schmeichel has actually made the most saves in the league, but the Dane has also let in those 27 goals from just 21 XG, a huge underperformance. In fact, over the last 18 months, his save percentage is just 64%, in the bottom 5th of goalkeepers and his lowest since gaining promotion to the PL, while this season he's among the bottom 8 PL stoppers for completing long kicks, as well as rating poorly for collecting crosses. In a 35-year-old, it's hardly unexpected, but can't go unaddressed in such an ambitious club. Fortunately for the Foxes, they seem to have found their Vardy replacement in Patson Daka. They'd be smart to upgrade Schmeichel next. 3. Ousmane Dembele. Frankly, Barcelona could do with upgrading their whole forward line in January. At the time of writing, Memphis Depay and Gavi are the only attackers to have earned more than 500 league minutes this campaign, with the Dutchman playing just 19 minutes fewer than Aguero, Braithwaite, De Jong, Fati, Coutinho and Dembele combined, the Frenchman the worst offender with just 137 minutes on the field. That hasn't hurt his popularity though, with Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea and Spurs linked, and Barcelona would be wise to use that interest as leverage to bring in a replacement. Only Depay has been involved in more than 4 league goals for the Blaugrana this term, with Jordi Alba next best. And if you look at XG, among players with over 500 minutes, Serginho Dest is second to the former Lyon man. So it makes sense that Barca are credited with interest in Ferran Torres and Raheem Sterling, but with both valued at north of £60 million and the Catalans in a financial pit, it's hard to see how a deal happens, unless Dembele can be used in a partial trade. After 4.5 years and just 69 starts at the Camp Nou, 24-year-old Dembele is in dire need of a fresh start. Let's hope the new year brings it. 2. PierreEmerick Aubameyang. We thought that after 2 years and 13 signings made at a cost of £165 million, Mikel Arteta would have nowhere to hide this season, but apparently we were wrong. The Spaniards' defenders now claim that the problem with Arsenal's weak attack, rated just 10th best in the Prem by XG, is the ageing forwards, and just 18 months after praising Arteta for signing Aubameyang to a new deal, they're clamouring for a replacement striker, with Jonathan David, Dusan Vlahovic and Dominic Calvert-Lewin all heavily linked. Those fans may be inconsistent, but they're not necessarily wrong. Despite a return to his favoured centre-forward role, Aubameyang's XG this season is even worse than last, and his attempts to press more are making things worse, not better. He only wins the ball slightly more, 1.1 times a game up from 0.9, and everything else is down, with fewer chances created, fewer dribbles and fewer touches in the penalty area, suggesting that the press isn't bringing the Gunners valuable turnovers, like Klopp's Liverpool, but simply tiring out their 32-year-old captain. When you factor in disciplinary problems as well, a new striker would undoubtedly improve Arsenal, so long as they don't make another Pepe-sized mistake. But if performances aren't better by the end of this campaign, it might be time to admit that their real problem position is manager. 1. Eric Dier. If you told someone new to the game that Manchester United once tried to sign Eric Dier for £50 million as a defensive midfielder, it would sound like science fiction. But the 27-year-old was a fan favourite and starter for club and country, playing 13 England games in 2016 alone, nearly twice the 7 he's managed for his nation over the last 3 years. At his best, Dier was a rock-hard defender with a surprisingly good right foot, passing into the final third 7 times per 90, the same as Trent Alexander-Arnold, and winning possession 4 times a game. But thanks to changes of position and a complicated appendicitis surgery, his form dipped, and he's now less intimidating than ever. He wins just 20% of the challenges he attempts, has seen 5 consecutive years of decline in his final third passes, and even wins fewer headers than he used to, down to 61% from an earlier success rate of 69%. Antonio Conte has found a use for that right foot, with Dier playing 10 long balls a game, up from 7 under Nuno, and progressive passes going from 1.8 to 3.3 per 90 in the same period. But if Spurs harbour hopes of a return to the top 4 anytime soon, it'll be much easier to replace Dier than rehabilitate him. So those are our 10 players that need to be upgraded in January, but who should join them on the scrap heap? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, drop us a like and subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and you'll never miss an upload. We'll see you next time.